A broad definition of Alzheimer's is a progressive mental deterioration that can occur in middle or old age due to generalized degeneration of the brain. It was discovered by Alois Alzheimer in the 20th century. The brain does early onset Alzheimer's affect. Brain cells start to deteriorate starting in the frontal lobe, but Alzheimer's also affects the temporal and parietal lobes. The frontal lobe controls intelligence, judgment, and behavior, while the temporal lobe controls memory and the parietal lobe controls language. Alzheimer also affects the hippocampus, which is in charge of memories and learning. The damage to all these parts of the brain eventually causes problems with memory, intelligence, judgment, language, and behavior, which is what each lobe controls. What happens to the brain during early onset Alzheimer's? With early onset Alzheimer's, toxic changes in the brain destroy the balance. Proteins like beta amyloid and tau have a huge effect. With these two proteins, tau starts to form tangles, and beta amyloid clump into plaques. As beta amyloid forms plaques, they start to build up between neurons. This buildup causes an excess amount of tau. Besides the buildup with these two proteins, it is also common to see a lack of blood from the vascular system. A lack of glucose in the brain is also a common factor of those people with Alzheimer's. Ultimately, all these things lead to a shrinking in the brain. Early onset Alzheimer's can be very hard to diagnose, especially because it is mostly hereditary. Although still hard to diagnose, there has been a mutation found at codon 717 of the beta amyloid precursor protein gene. This mutation is very rare and only found 5% of the time, but helps to explain the clumping of beta amyloid. Early onset Alzheimer's is mainly hereditary. With this disease, symptoms start to show in the 30s, 40s, and 50s, and very rarely in the 20s. This picture shows one parent affected by early onset Alzheimer's and one who isn't. If one parent is affected, then each one of their children have a 50-50 chance of getting the disease. Since early onset Alzheimer's affects the hippocampus, people start noticing symptoms that ruin their memory. Symptoms can include not knowing where they are, not knowing how to get home, not knowing the date or year, poor judgment, withdrawal from family or friends, or mood swings. Symptoms like memory loss, changes in mood, or misplacing belongings are so simple which is why it is so hard to diagnose early onset Alzheimer's. Unfortunately, there is no current cure for early onset Alzheimer's. However, research is being done to develop a drug that will decrease the production of beta amyloid clumps and tau tangles. Doctors currently recommend exercising, socializing, and therapy.